everyone, it's Sharana from Pay Your Weight, and today I'm going to be reviewing Killing Eve Season 3, Episode 6, End of Game. And so in this week's episode, we kind of return to our normal pacing of the show, where it centers around these different characters. Last week, we got a very intimate look into where Villanelle comes from, kind of a deeper look into her psyche as to why she's the way she is, or her upbringing from her mother, and kind of their very tough relationship they have between the two, so much that even when Villanelle tries to confront her past, she ends up going to the only instincts that she knows. As Dasha mentions in this week's episode, she ends up killing her mother. And so we see that Eve is in London. We thought that Nico was dead, you guys, but Nico is not dead. Nico clearly, I don't know if the little pitchfork punctured his voice box, but we see that he can't actually talk. But we do see that, I'm assuming that was his father, who does not like Eve whatsoever. Even tried to tell her, look, I told him when he met you, he ain't got no business dealing with you, that you're gonna be nothing but grief for him. And the daddy was actually right. He actually was good with the foreshadowing for what will become of Nico and with a life choosing to be with Eve. And so he tells her that, you know, Nico's getting better. The doctor said that he's healing well. And basically he just doesn't need stress. And he was like, but you are stressed, so you need to go ahead and go. But Nico kind of broke it up. And then Eve, his dad leaves. Eve comes and sit down. And then basically she was like, I'm going to do everything I can to try to figure out who hurt you. And then he stops her, and then he does this little voice thing saying piss off forever. So Nico is not having it. And to be quite honest, like at this point, I would be in Nico's shoes as well. I don't understand why Eve thinks that Nico is going to be on her side when literally she has brought nothing but death and destruction to his front doorstep. Even after Nico tried to tell her, leave all of this behind, leave it alone, choose me. But instead she chose to pursue the pursuit of finding Villanelle, which ultimately led to the potential death of Nico, but also to, you know, that raggedy teacher that he worked with. She died as well. And so I don't understand why Eve really hasn't had that aha moment happen for her. But I do like a conversation that Eve has with Kenny's old co-worker as she's having this hilarious like fight with the vending machine. They were investigating the murders, and so Eve is not fully convinced that Villanelle was behind the death, the attempted murder of Nico. And so she's trying to find a pattern between the copycat kill that she did from the one that happened many, many years ago, which ends up being led back to Dasha. And so I find the conversation that she has with the coworker so interesting, because he's trying to tell her, like, look, girl, you done been through a lot, okay? You ain't got a place to stay because this girl know where you live, okay? You sleeping literally at an office, or you sleeping at Paul's house right now. Your husband almost died, okay? Your husband's co-worker died. Kenny died. Think of all these bad things that have happened to you because you can't accept that sometimes the bad guys will win. And so this really ties into the end of game title of the episode, where we see that Eve just cannot accept that she is not going to win, that she isn't right, and she can't give up this pursuit of Villanelle, which obviously has shown her time after time again, it leads nothing to destruction, but she just can't help it. And so we see that she finds a connection with Dasha, and she thinks that Dasha has a connection to Villanelle. She thinks that she's behind the person who's actually been handling Villanelle as well. And so she goes to have a conversation with Carolyn, and Carolyn tells her, like, hey, like, you know, I've met Dasha before. She was the top assassin at the KGB. She ended up being exiled because she ended up killing one of her own, which is why she cannot go back to Russia, which is why she's been trying to get Villanelle this whole keeper title so she can go back home and mind her business and just live the last of her days out peacefully. So Carolyn tells her, like, hey, you know, like, okay, so let's say that the 12 is behind trying to have Nico killed. What does that mean? Like, what is the point? And then she was like, okay, but what if they were behind Kenny? What would be the point of that? Which is funny because they both are trying to give each other advice, but they can't understand what's right in front of them, that you finding out what happened to the attempted murder or the actual murder of your loved ones is not going to lead to anything but death, because in the back of their mind, they know who's behind it, But what can you do to actually stop them? You have been unsuccessful this entire time. So what is investigating this or trying to dig deeper into who's behind Kenny's death or who's behind the attempted murder of Nico? What is that going to bring to you? Is it going to bring closure to you? Is it going to bring relief? Like, what is that going to do? And so I find it interesting that she ends up going to find Dasha in Barcelona because she connects the dots with everything. And then essentially, she knows that Dasha is probably the one who is behind the murder of Nico. She just can't necessarily prove it. But they meet in a bowling alley. She sees Dasha. They both are good at bowling. It's like, Eve, you better go ahead. You better give her a run for her money. But the conversation is even more telling because Dasha is telling her that, hey, you will never win. You cannot beat us. You will never have access to Villanelle again. She's up and onward. She's moving to bigger and better things. Like, she has no place for you anymore. She's like, you need to leave this alone. And she ends up telling her end of game. And so once again, this is everyone trying to tell Eve, like, this is not leading to anywhere. It's a game. It's a losing game. It's like you've lost before you even really begun the journey of trying to figure out who the 12 is, who was behind Nico's murder. It just doesn't matter. Like, why don't you work on focusing to try to just fix whatever you have left between you and Nico? Because obviously he cares enough to let you come and sit by him, but clearly he doesn't want to be with you. Like, maybe you should just really focus on yourself. Focus on, just getting back to as close to normal as you possibly can. And that's pretty much all that we see from Eve. And we see towards the end of the episode that she ends up going back to like watch over Nico. But the biggest part of this story really deals between Villanelle and Constantine. But Carolyn also has a little bit to do with her own investigation that she has. So we kind of know that her daughter is not really who she says she is, that she's up to something and it has something to do with Constantine. So we see that Carolyn goes to the park and she's meeting someone to get information in regards to Kenny's phone records. So she's been asking Paul who works for MI6, to get a hold of the phone records so she could try to figure out what happened, but he's been dragging his feet on it. And so, the guy tells her like, hey, I sent this over a week to the office. I thought it would be better if I met with you in person to make sure that you actually get them, which actually leads her to go visit Paul, where we find what Carolyn's office actually looks like. And she basically tells Paul, like, are you working for them? She asks him, like, are you working for them? And he's like, are should I trust you? And he was like, absolutely not. Like, that's why we do what we do, because we trust no one. And then we end up finding out that Paul is actually working for them. I don't know if he's necessarily working for the 12. I don't know, because he was asking Constantine to look into his old friend who was murdered. He asked him to look into his wife because he thinks that the wife was the one that was actually stealing money, which I'm starting to think that was Constantine that was stealing money, but like maybe that's just me, or maybe I'm just still confused. But he wants Constantine to end up looking into who ordered the kill for his wife, for his friend's wife, which it was obviously Constantine, but he can't tell him that. So it seems at this point that Irina's foreshadowing of her father, basically saying like, you work for this person, you work for that person. Like, they're all going to find out like that you're working for no one but yourself, that this is going to end up to some really bad business for Constantine, that he might possibly end up dead before the season is out. But I don't know. That's just my little prediction, my thoughts that I have with his storyline. But we see that when she returns home, she talks to she ends up picking up Constantine, and she finds out that Kenny had contacted him, but he also had contact with her daughter as well. And then he alludes that she tried to kiss him. But I don't think anything else happened. But Kenny called Constantine to ask him, was he his father? And then Carolyn seems very shooken up by the fact that Kenny called to ask him that, which we know Kenny ain't never cared for Constantine, maybe because he always thought that he was his father. But he tells her that, hey, I said I didn't know because I don't know. And then she kicks him out of the car and makes her walk back home. And then we see an interesting conversation between Carolyn and her daughter, which I was hoping that we would have got to this a little bit sooner than where we are now, because it's obvious that her daughter is up to something else, but we don't quite necessarily know what it is. But I love her how her daughter plays this victim act, or how she has this whole thing where, when Carolyn tells her, like, Kenny was mine and you were your father's, I can sit in here and pretend that I care what you're trying to make for dinner and act like I care what you do or listen to you, but that's just not me. That's not what I am capable of. But like, if you want me to try, I would do that. But first, you need to come clean as well and tell me, what the heck are you doing with Constantine, and why are you lying to me? And so I can't wait to see what the reveal or the mystery is behind why she's in in bed, you know, not literally, figuratively, with Constantine, what she's up to. I feel like she's working for someone else as well, but I just don't know who, and I need to understand who that is. Is it the 12? Is it not the 12? I don't know, but I'm ready to find out. But we see that Villanelle, she's still really shaken up about what's happened at the end of last week's episode. Good news, she meets with Lynn, the lady who had Dasha drive a wedge between Villanelle and Eve, which obviously did not actually work. We see that she tells her she can be keeper, but then she hands her next job, which is postcard to go kill someone in, I think she was supposed to go to Romania. And so she just sent her like, ma'am, like, what are you talking about? I was doing this so I didn't have to, I wanted to be a keeper so I didn't have to do this mess anymore, but you're giving me the same old crap to do, so I'm confused. And Lynn was like, girl, I don't know what you want. We gave you everything you wanted, but she didn't want to actually go and kill anyone. I don't know if it's necessarily that she didn't want to kill anyone anymore, or she just wanted to do it when she felt like it. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to understand what Villanelle's like rationale was behind why she wanted to actually be a keeper, outside of she just felt that it's something that she should just have just because. She basically goes to find Constantine. So Constantine trying to watch his daughter play this hockey game, okay? Then Villanelle pops up with this bullhorn being so loud and obnoxious that I was absolutely dying laughing. Constantine just looks like, I'm so sick of you. I'm so tired of you. I just don't want nothing else to do with you. But you could tell he still cares for her. And so he asks her like what happened with going back home. And then she looks like she's fighting back tears. And then he was just like, Villanelle, no, you're not supposed to go kill your mom. What are you doing? And so we see that she tells him like, hey, I just want to leave it all. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to run away with you. Cause you know, Irena's been talking about like, when is Constantine going to be ready to take her away? Cause she's sick of her mom. She's sick of her stepdaddy, who is so nice. He made her a peanut butter sandwich cause he knew that it was her time of the month. I said, that's a good stepdad to you, but I could see how he could be a little creepy as well at the same time. So Irena is mad because Villanelle thinks that she's coming with them. She's like, over my dead body, if you think that I'm about to share you with my father, who you already made him miss me shooting my winning goal, like, stop it. I don't like you. I don't want nothing to do with you. Clearly, she's still holding a grudge from when Villanelle basically took her hostage and tried to kill her. So I can understand why she doesn't want Villanelle to be with them. But Constantine is just like, hey, like, you have to be ready to leave everything, including Eve. You need to leave everything behind. And so you need to make sure that you're acting like everything is normal, but he doesn't think that she's necessarily actually up for the task. And so I find it funny that Villanelle actually ends up showing up to have Irena play hooky for the day. I thought it was so funny when they were doing a car ride and screaming. I was like, I would totally watch a movie with Villanelle and Irena. I feel like I would be thoroughly entertained from beginning to end. But the whole time she's just like, girl, I know what you're trying to do. It's not going to work. I don't want you coming with us. I don't want you hanging out with us. I want nothing to do with you, like, at all, period. Okay. So, it's funny because it's not really funny, but she mentions like, you know, if you hate your stepdad so much, like, or your mom, like, why don't you just kill him? She's like, I'm not going to kill them. Like, what are you talking about? But the most haunting scene that happens is when Constantine, after he gets shook by Paul asking him to look into the murder of his friend's wife, basically he decides that it's time for him to leave, and he calls Irena and he leaves a vague message, a cryptic message that only she will understand. And so we see that Villanelle has now kind of gotten into Irena's head. She sees her stepfather taking out the trash, and she ends up hitting him with the car and running over him. And you can literally see the shock and the horror in Constantine's eyes as he witnesses this murder and the loss of his daughter's innocence. Not that she was innocent before, but you know what I mean. But we see that Villanelle still hasn't really recovered from everything. She goes to do her kill in Romania, and I thought it was really funny how they had the letters come like, this is BS. I thought that was so cute. But she ends up frying this man with a hairdryer, but she's being very sloppy about it. He ends up taking the scissors from her, stabs her with it. Then she takes the scissors out, drops the scissors on the ground that obviously has her blood on it. And then we see that Dasha ends up finding her like crying, just over it, trying to stitch herself back up. And so she was just like, I'm done. I want to leave. And I was like, didn't Constantine tell you the one thing that you weren't supposed to do was tell anybody what you was actually about to do? So I'm interested to see like how Villanella is really going to try to reconcile with what happened at the end of last week's episode, but also too, as she's trying to make her escape from being a keeper, and Eve's investigation into the 12, Carolyn's investigation into it as well, trying to figure out what has actually happened to Kenny. I'd be very excited to see how all of these different pieces from these different characters kind of line up with each other. But I think the main thing that I'm most interested in finding out is what Carolyn's daughter has to do with all of this. But overall for me, I actually like this episode. I think it's kind of tying everything together, bringing everybody back onto the same course and to the same page. So I'll be very interested to see how these last 2 episodes go. I think there's only 2 more episodes, like episode 7 and 8. So we're almost done. I felt like they just started. Like, what happened to the time, you guys? But those are pretty much my thoughts on Killing Eve, season 3, episode 6, End of Game. As always, my name is Sharona from Pay Your Weight, and if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit the notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. I'll see you soon.